wanted to ask, in terms of the past year, which has been crazy, where does the Polaris win rank? And like, if you could order all of the surreal moments, what would be kind of the top 5, I guess, or top 3? Let's say top 3.
Like, you know, being in all honesty, Polaris was a huge deal for me. But if I was going to rank them, I think number 5.
Taking a boat from Japan to China and watching Pearl Harbor on that boat.
Oh, God, yeah.
And just playing, touring in China.
Touring in China would be number 5. Number 4, I'm going to say opening for Korn and the Manic Street Preachers in Serbia at the Exit Fest, which is actually a really important festival because it was like a break. It was called the Exit for 10 Years of Madness. It was a giant, initially a protest against Slobodan Milosevic, and then now it's become just a party. But still, we got to open for Korn and the Manic Street Preachers, who neither of which I'm a huge fan of, but just like for pop culture purposes, it was insane. Number 3 for me was a 12-hour show, and like playing with Moby and Jay Mascis and Ezra and like all these weird, crazy people. And also, like, I was going to say all the guests, like doing a song with Jel Biafra in San Francisco, doing songs with Keith Morris. Number 2, this is personal. This is where we're all going to break off, I'm sure. Number 2 for me is the Polaris one, which is the shock of all. Number 1 for me was the moment on YouTube when I clicked on a TNA Wrestling's debut, and Bryan Danielson came to the ring, and he came out to an F'd Up song. It was like, he came out to Generation, and I'm a huge fan of indie wrestling, indie professional wrestling. And I love Bryan Danielson. I think he's an unbelievable performer in the ring. And so to see that was just like, oh my God. That for me was the highlight. Like, you know.
You're going to say when your first child was born.
Well, no, I mean, band-wise, obviously personal highlight, my son.
You're like, Polaris number 2. And number 1.
Wrestling.
I know, I was waiting.
No, my son doesn't count because he didn't do much for the band. If anything, he's a hindrance.
And you don't know that yet. For sure. It's still early.
That's true. Actually, he's our good luck charm.
Yeah.
Every time he's there, something fun happens.
Did your son, because I know your son was kind of being toted around at the beginning of the night. Was he there when you... That's awesome.
Finally fell asleep, and then he woke up after we won. And he's just like sitting there like, what? And then I'm like, with the check, like, get a picture! And he's just like just sitting there like, and I'm like closing with the check with him. Like, I didn't say!
I also wanted to talk a bit about the way you guys have been represented in the media, just because I think there's a lot of focus either on, you know, the personalities in the band, the personality conflicts within the band, or your name, which seems to be a common talking point. Do you feel like that, like, how do you guys feel about the way you've been portrayed? Do you think it's directly related to the fact that you have, you know, an unprintable name?
I think like a lot of it's to do with it. I think like, you know, I kind of love the idea of the fact that we're represented in a certain way in the media, because I look at the bands in the past that have been represented in the way in that media, like Fear playing on Saturday Night Live, the Sex Pistols when they came out, you know, and I love that idea where, you know, people aren't going to get it. Like, what we're doing isn't for everyone.
Well, I mean, and you kind of become cartoons.
Yeah,
like,
that's
like
the risk.
That's
the risk you make. You know, you don't want to become a parody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what we're doing isn't meant for everybody. You know, it's a party that everybody's invited to, or anybody's invited to. But we don't want everyone to stay. You know, like people are going to not stay. You know, and that's what the media kind of does. You know, like people are going to tune in and be like, oh, that band, like it's just yelling and that's just screaming, you know. But some people might stick around and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like I know it. Sometimes we become cartoony, and especially live. I think there's a real cartoony element to it. And that's because I've always thought there should be a fun entertainment element to music, you know. And that's not necessarily buffoonery, but just that people can come to a show, whether you like a band or not, and you can leave with some sort of memory. You know you're never going to see that exact experience ever again. It's an unreplicatable experience.
And there has to be a difference between the live and the recorded, and we're not the type of outfit that's going to have trapeze and rockets and fire. I mean, it's not. I mean, excess is definitely in our personality, as anybody who's followed the trajectory of the band knows, but it's not really in our blood to do something like that. So all the live excess comes from all of us. So whether it's Damien going completely mental or the rest of us just playing something a little differently than it is on the record, it has to be a difference there. But I think it is the media's job to sort of focus on like the things that spike up the most. I mean, it's not really their job to be like, well, the guitar player was playing the 7th fret, which is like a fantastic melody, or like,
and like
the drummer played some mixed meter. Like,
I hate when you watch a band and you're like, this is like watching their CD or record spin around, you know? Like, I could have this same experience tomorrow. And I find bands that are like that are always mediocre, you know? They're always like consistently good, like consistently mediocre. You know, I like bands that fail miserably one night and then are unbelievable the next night, you know? That is at least an honest experience. And when you see a band fail, you remember that, you know? Like, you're like, wow, they sucked. And it's like, and then that's definitely been the case with us sometimes. When we fail epically. Like, we fail so hard, it's unbelievable. We fail like that dude who jumped off the building and tried to land in the pool and landed on the side of the pool and broke his legs. That's how hard we fail. Like, we fail. And so, but I like that because then because people can leave and they're always going to leave and they're always going to be like, wow, I'm never going to forget how much that sucked, you know? And that's almost as wonderful as when they leave and go, I'm never going to forget how awesome that was.
So what was what's been your most astoundingly bad performance?
Toss-up.
In Barcelona?
Barcelona, I had a
But that was kind of like both of those things in one.
Yeah, that's true, because I like, we've had a law of diminishing returns with shows in Barcelona. The first show we played in Barcelona, probably the best show we ever played. Like, it's just so much fun. And I don't know if you've been to Barcelona, but everyone there looks like so beautiful. Like, it was like just like a room full of like beautiful Catalonian people like carrying me around, and like I'm like, yeah. The next show was all right, and then the third show was terrible. And I was backstage. And I was freaking out because my wife and I were having a baby. And I had a balaclava, and so I put on the balaclava and started making all these like speeches like, I'm broke, I have no money, I've got a fucking kid on the way. And every time the kids went, I swore, I can't believe this. Okay. And every time someone went to sing along, I'd like push them away and not let them sing. And like I made sure no one had a good time at that show. I made sure everyone shared in my misery. And then I walked off stage and I felt so bad that we actually went back on stage and we did the whole show again, which was fun when we did it again. But that was pretty hard. It was a very Pittsburgh. We played in Pittsburgh. Remember that Pittsburgh show?
Yeah, it was kind of empty. We were playing at like a Vets Hall.
Thought that was our last show too.
Yeah.
I climbed on top of an amp. It was just a speaker amp, and I just couldn't get down. I just sat there.
Everybody would. I mean, like, we could have been playing the most remarkable set of our life, but it was just hitting people like a force field. Like, everybody just did not care.
Well, it was also like
couldn't do anything. And
the Pittsburgh Penguins were playing against Philadelphia Flyers and like some stupid hockey thing that was really important to people.
I think though the worst show, my most hated show was playing Wakestock.
Yeah,
Swan Island.
That was that was right up there.
It was the worst day of my life.
Yeah, that was right up there. That was like one of those experiences where you're like, we definitely sold out today. We like did it for the money. And unlike bands that sell out for a lot of money, we sold out for $1,000.
And we couldn't even fake it.
We couldn't fake it. It was a miserable experience.
There was like
That's
3
tragic.
to 5 people watching us. One of them maybe got naked, but I think it was from sunstroke.
It was like wakeboarding hippies.
It was like, why are we like? This is not the band we want to be. And I think that was actually like all these moments have been really important to the band in a lot of ways, because I think that was the moment where we were kind of like, well, we don't want to be this band.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a band that, you know, goes on the Warped Tour and plays Wakestock. You know, nothing against bands that do that, because I like a lot of bands that do that stuff, because I have terrible taste in pop punk. But at the same time, we didn't want to be that band, and we knew we were in jeopardy of becoming that band for $1,000.